This here video is about the spiritual, mental, and physical, and also the soul. The soul is everything. The physical is just transportation of everything. And the spiritual is your deeper awakening of self. You have a spiritual and you also have a mental. The mental is just a conscious of what is, what's not, and also you have a subconscious that rides alongside of your conscious. So we trying to gather all these things together to see who you really are. If you're a spiritual person, you follow out the things of the spirit moves before the mind and before the physical. The spirit moves. And when the spirit moves, your physical and your mental try to follow it. It's fast, you know what I'm saying? So, dealing with your mental person, you have thoughts, but do yourself follow after? You got a choice. You got a choice to follow after your thoughts. This is the will that was given to us from the Creator. The will. So, your soul, when you die and pass away, your soul is the collective of everything. It's the collective of everything. The whole collection of everything you did, everything you was going to do, everything that's in the spirit, everything that's in the mental, it's everything. It's your whole entire being. And sometimes everything is at war with each other. Your mental is at war with your spiritual. Your physical is at war with your soul. When you pass away, it wants your soul to pass away this way or that way. But your physical, your five limbs can determine, it determines who you are. It's like a purge. It could purge you. It could purge you all the way through. Your limbs could purge you all the way through until you become something. And all the elements we deal with, you could become any element it is because the whole body, the whole self is filled with elements. You know what I'm saying? You filled with water. You filled with air. You filled with earth. And you also filled with fire. You know what I'm saying? Fire is your desire. Water is your blood. Air is the it's your heart, your thinking, and and earth is your flesh. You know what I'm saying? So you dealing with all this. That's why people call you your airhead, because your mind is filled with air. It's filled with thoughts. It's filled with wanting to move and go places and be like a tree that's blown away in the breeze. Sometimes your leaves fall, but in the summertime it pick back up. In summer it pick back up, and you turn green, and you're a green leaf all over again. You're a great green leaf. So, dealing with all these things, how would you determine the person who you really want to be? Some people go to religion, some people go to music, some people go to entertainment, some people go to the news, some people go to movies, some people go to smoking, some people go into eating good, some people go into working out, some people go to all these things, even Ifa, even calling upon the spirits. You know what I'm saying? You as a spirit, but some people go and call upon the spirits, calling upon their ancestors. All these things they do, and all these things deal with living in the afterlife. The here and now in the afterlife. And what you did in the past, it will be recorded by your mind. That's why your mind think and you know. what you done done. You know what I'm saying? So same way with your soul. The soul is a record. It's the know-how. Your mental, your spirit, your soul, all that. Because your spirit move fast and does some things that are already done, but it need to be done now, in the here and now. But it already did it before, so it just boom, go right to it. So speaking about these things, I was looking at Nature Boy. They was having a conversation. They was talking about astrology, and astrology is the celestial or extraterrestrial beings. No, celestial is the physical, but the extraterrestrial beings is astrology. These are the things that are in space. We're living in space and time, but we're living in the lower space. But there's a middle space, which is the heavens, and then there's an upper space, which is outer space, which is far, far away, which is like the seven Cursi, the seven heavens, the Cursi, the throne. You know what I'm saying? Which God sits on. You know what I'm saying? He sits in the seven heavens. You know what I'm saying? And Paul Apostle mentioned one time he was caught up in the third heaven. But we know that right here and now, there's a heaven. Once you look out into the atmosphere and you see the blue and you see the space between Earth and the clouds, that is a certain heaven. So for certainty, we know that there's seven heavens. You know what I'm saying? There are many heavens, just like there are many worlds. You know what I'm saying? That Mars, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, all these different places could be different worlds in the spiritual, in the mental, because the mental is also a spirit. A spirit. The heart is also a spirit. You know, but you have this one spirit that is a deeper awakening of yourself. You know what I'm saying? And see, when you're dealing with all these spaces and times, you say where your spirit is going to go next, and people try to figure out this and this and this. But this is a whole conversation. You can't figure out nothing. What's here is what's here, and what ain't is what ain't. It is what it is. People always try to be psychics and figure out this and figure out that. The astrology, it doesn't lines up to where it tells you. The astrology is just like time. It's just like a clock. You know what I'm saying? It could tell you your position, and it could tell you a certain moment. But it can't predict. It can't predict because you have a choice and a will to go the opposite way. You know what I'm saying? It can't predict and say, okay, you going South Georgia, and then your will say, oh no, I'm going the opposite way. See, you have a will to still say you're going the opposite way, even though the astrology predicts that you're going South Georgia, or you should be going South Georgia. Yeah, it's good in astrology to line yourself up with what's going on in astrology, other places of your deeper awaken of the deeper senses and the deeper spirits. But it's not good to get so caught up into where you believe that astrology itself is God. No, it's not God. God just sits in the seven heavens. But it's not God. God is a spirit. And God is not a sun. God is not a moon. God is not God is not just space, because space is just space. It's just darkness. And in the beginning of the Bible, in Genesis, it says God hover over space and darkness and land and water and all these elements and all these things. God hovered all these things, and He made man out of the dirt, and He made man out of the elements, you know what I'm saying, and built man. And then woman was made from man, out of the rib of a man, right side, and she was formed, you know what I'm saying. We was all formed. So we are being formed on this earth. So you gotta stop right there and say, Okay, we're being formed by God because He's the creator. He's the all-knowing. He's the all-seeing, the omnipresent, the omni science and everything. So we're being formed. So if you get so caught up into astrology or this, that, you're going to go beyond too far to the right. Or if you don't know enough about astrology, you're going to go too far to the left. So it's good to know enough about astrology, but it's not so good that you put your hopes and all your dreams and blessings into one basket and put all your hopes and dreams and put all yourself into it where you believe that it's your God, where you believe in it and don't believe in God. You know what I'm saying? But astrology is here to help guide you enough to just to form you. But it's best, just like Islam say, if you're on a deen, if you're on a narrow path, if you're on a straight path, to stay directly in the middle. Like when you got traffic on a highway, you may have 3 lanes. You may have a lane in the middle, a lane to your left and the right, but you need to stay in the lane in the middle. That is the narrow and the straight path. It's directly in the middle. You gotta stay straight in path. You can't, if you go over on the left, too far on the left lines, you're gonna hit a car. You go too far on the right line, you're gonna hit a car on your right. So stay directly in the middle, stay on the deen. So that's the way we're being formed. If you're being formed and you being made this by God, and He put astrology here to help you stay on time and stay in rep. But just like He put the law here, the law was a mirror, but we couldn't believe totally into the law because the law couldn't make us totally right because we still was of sin, we still was of the flesh. That goes back to say you have a choice and you have a will. You know what I'm saying? But astrology will get you far enough, but don't believe totally in astrology where you believe that it's God, because it is not God. Astrology is not God. Astronomy is not God. Math and all these things, these are just tools. It's just tools. Just go back to Freemasonry. It's tools. You're a builder, but you see what happened to the Tower of Babel when they built it so high up in the sky. He knocked the Tower of Babel down and changed all the languages to over 50 languages, and people were scattered amongst the whole earth. So now we are scattered. We got scattered minds, we got scattered mental, we got scattered physical, we got scattered spiritual, but we trying to bring ourselves the awareness of self and the awareness of oneness. The oneness, just like God is the oneness of Him. He's one, you know what I'm saying? And just like you are one, but you have to become one, and you have to believe in one God, and you have to believe in one structure and one setting and one time and one place to know yourself. You know what I'm saying? But once you get that far in astrology, that will lead you to where you need to go, and to give you that compass, you got it. You don't need to believe in it as God and keep believing in it and keep coming up with these prophecies and coming up with these things that's going over too far to the right. Just like if you don't know enough, you go too far to the left, then you'll crash also. So it's a crash point on either side. So it stay directly in the middle and stay in the DNA, just like blood. Blood is a circle like this, and in the middle is your DNA. Your DNA gives you life. You know what I'm saying? That DNA stays strictly, that blood stay in the middle of them bubbles, the DNA, the atoms. You know what I'm saying? It's directly in the middle. It's a circle, it's formed. And that's how your whole life is formed. So this was just a little knowledge that I'm kicking on spirit, mental, physical, the soul. And the soul, when you pass away, the afterlife is real. The afterlife is real. It's what's going to happen hereafter. It's 3 questions you're going to ask in the grave. Who was your God? What was your religion? And who was the prophet? And Islam is my religion, and my God is Allah. And the prophet, last prophet, is Muhammad. He talked about this in Moses' time. He said, I was going to send another person like you. And the only person that was sent that was like Moses was not Jesus, but Muhammad. He the one got further to the right. You know what I'm saying? Because everything he did was from the right. He entered the room with his right foot. He ate with his right hand. And he set all these rules and regulations that was from Allah Just like Moses said all these rules and revelations that was from Allah, which they call Yahweh in them times because that was in the language that they spoke, Hebrew. But in these times, it's Allah, it's Arabic. Although vitamin shaitan rajim bismillahir rahim rabbi yalla hana alamin ar-rahman rahim the qiyamah yakana budu yakana steed in the masakisa to but see, we fall short. We fall short. But once you have the all knowing and all thing, you can make choices and decisions. And your choices and decision, once you become all knowing and omnipresent, just like your Father, because He said, "Be like me, and ye are gods. Be like me, be as I." But you have to go far enough to have the know-how. But when you make these choices and decisions, you will make choices and decisions in this life, and you make it where you get into heaven. But see, everybody ain't gonna make it in heaven. He said, "Many are called, few are chosen." But somebody came to my door the other day. It was some Jehovah's Witnesses. They said, "You know when you gonna make it into heaven." And right now, I know that I'm going to make it to a better place. I'm not going to say heaven because God the only one that could judge me for sure. But I know that I'm going to make it to a better place than this place because of by the water, by the spirit, by the mental, by the heart, by the soul, and by the judgment of all things, because He is all things, and we become all things. We become one. We become like the Messiah, and we become like the Father, and we become like the prophets, and we become like the disciples that was living in righteousness, because righteousness is righteousness. Whether you become like another person righteousness or become like God's righteousness, is all the same righteousness, because they all following after the same creator, is all the same thing, going into the same way, or the same routine, or the same religious practice. Alhamdulillah, subhanallah, bismillah, astaghfirullah.